The radio crackled with desperation. "We're pinned down. 3, maybe 4 snipers have us trapped. We've lost 2 already." The voice belonged to Staff Sergeant Mike Torres, a Navy SEAL with 12 years of combat experience, now pressed against a concrete wall in the dusty streets of Ramadi, Iraq. His team of 8 elite warriors, men who had survived the most dangerous missions in Afghanistan and Iraq, were completely immobilized by an enemy they couldn't even see. 200 meters away, through the scope of her rifle, Marine Sergeant Elena Rodriguez watched the chaos unfold. At just 24 years old, she had already earned a reputation as one of the most lethal marksmen in the U.S. military. But what was about to happen in the next 12 minutes would make her a legend. The insurgent snipers had positioned themselves perfectly. One in a minaret, another behind a water tank on a rooftop, a third in a bombed-out building, and possibly a fourth somewhere in the maze of structures. They had turned a routine patrol into a nightmare, picking off American soldiers with methodical precision. The SEALs, America's most elite fighting force, were trapped like sitting ducks. Elena's commanding officer had given her the mission brief just 20 minutes earlier. "Rodriguez, we have a SEAL team in trouble. Multiple enemy snipers have them pinned. You need to neutralize the threat." It was the kind of impossible task that would have intimidated most soldiers. For Elena, it was just another day at the office. But this wasn't just any mission. This was the moment that would test everything she had learned, everything she had trained for, and everything she believed about herself. In 12 minutes, she would either save 8 of America's finest warriors or watch helplessly as they were systematically eliminated by an enemy that seemed to hold all the advantages. The clock was ticking, and Elena Rodriguez was about to prove why even the toughest Navy SEALs would later say she was the most dangerous weapon they had ever seen in action. Elena Rodriguez had never planned to become a sniper. Growing up in San Antonio, Texas, she was the daughter of a mechanic and a nurse, raised in a household where hard work and determination were the only currencies that mattered. Her father, Miguel Rodriguez, had served briefly in the army during peacetime, but it was her grandfather's stories about World War II that first sparked her interest in military service. Every Sunday after church, Grandpa Eduardo would sit on the back porch with Elena, cleaning his old hunting rifle while telling stories about his time as a radio operator in the Pacific Theater. "Mija," he would say in his weathered voice, "in war, it's not always the biggest or strongest who survives. Sometimes it's the one who can think fastest and shoot straightest." Those words would prove prophetic. At Brackenridge High School, Elena excelled academically but struggled to find her place socially. She was too serious for the popular crowd, too focused for the party scene, and too ambitious for a town where many of her classmates saw graduation as the finish line rather than the starting gate. Her guidance counselor, Mrs. Patterson, noticed Elena's restless energy during their senior year meetings. "Elena, you have the grades for college, but I can tell you're looking for something more," Mrs. Patterson said during one of their sessions. "Have you considered the military? They have excellent educational benefits, and someone with your discipline could go far." The idea intrigued Elena, but it wasn't until she attended a Marine Corps recruitment presentation that something clicked. Gunnery Sergeant David Chen, the recruiter, didn't give them the usual spiel about seeing the world and serving your country. Instead, he talked about excellence, about pushing beyond what you thought possible, about becoming part of something bigger than yourself. "The Marines don't want everyone," he said, looking directly at Monty. "We only want people who refuse to accept second best, who see obstacles as opportunities, and who understand that being comfortable is the enemy of being great." After the presentation, Elena approached him with questions that surprised even the veteran recruiter. "Sergeant, what's the hardest job a Marine can have?" she asked. Chen smiled. "That depends on what you mean by hard. Physically hard? Mentally hard? Emotionally hard?" "All of them," Elena replied without hesitation. 3 months later, Elena stood on the yellow footprints of Marine Corps Recruit Depot, Paris Island, South Carolina, beginning the most challenging 13 weeks of her life. Boot camp was designed to break down civilian habits and rebuild Marines from the ground up, and Elena embraced every brutal moment of it. Her drill instructors, Staff Sergeant Williams and Sergeant Martinez, quickly identified Elena as someone special. While other recruits struggled with the transition from civilian life, Elena seemed to thrive under pressure. During rifle training, she consistently scored expert marksman, hitting targets that some recruits couldn't even see clearly.
"Rodriguez!" Staff Sergeant Williams barked during one range session.
"What did you do before you came here? You shoot like you've been doing this for years." "Just hunting with my grandfather, sir," Elena responded, maintaining her firing position. "Well, your grandfather taught you well. Keep this up, and we might have to find you some bigger targets to hit." The comment was meant as encouragement, but it planted a seed that would grow throughout Elena's Marine career. During combat training exercises, she demonstrated an almost supernatural ability to remain calm under pressure, to think tactically while others reacted emotionally, and to make split-second decisions that saved simulated lives. Her squad leader during one particularly intense wargame later told their instructors, "I've never seen anything like Rodriguez. When everything went to hell, she just got quieter and more focused. It was like watching a computer calculate the best solution while everyone else was panicking." After graduating as the honor graduate of her platoon, Elena was assigned to the 2nd Marine Division at Camp Lejeune, North Carolina. Her commanding officer, Captain Sarah Mitchell, had heard about Elena's exceptional marksmanship and recommended her for additional training. It was Captain Mitchell who first suggested that Elena consider sniper school. "Rodriguez, I've been watching your performance, and I think you have potential for specialized training," Captain Mitchell said during Elena's first performance review. "How would you feel about applying for Scout Sniper School?" Elena had heard about the Scout Snipers, the elite marksmen who operated in small teams behind enemy lines, gathering intelligence and eliminating high-value targets. The training was notoriously difficult, with a failure rate that exceeded 80%. Most Marines who even attempted the school were seasoned veterans with years of experience. "Ma'am, I've only been a Marine for 6 months. Wouldn't they want someone with more experience?" Captain Mitchell leaned back in her chair. "Elena, in my 15 years as a Marine, I've seen a lot of excellent soldiers, but I've rarely seen someone with your combination of natural ability and tactical thinking. The school looks for potential, not just experience. I think you have what it takes." The application process itself was daunting. Elena had to pass rigorous physical and psychological evaluations, demonstrate advanced marksmanship skills, and survive a preliminary selection course that eliminated 60% of candidates before they even reached the actual school. The psychological evaluation was conducted by Dr. Rebecca Thompson, a Navy psychologist who specialized in assessing special operations candidates. Thompson's job was to determine whether candidates had the mental fortitude to handle the isolation, stress, and moral complexity of sniper operations. "Elena, this evaluation isn't about right or wrong answers," Dr. Thompson explained. "I need to understand how you think under pressure and how you process the reality of what snipers do. A sniper's job isn't just about shooting accurately. It's about making life and death decisions, often while alone and far from support." During the evaluation, Dr. Thompson presented Elena with various scenarios designed to test her judgment and emotional stability. One scenario involved choosing between taking a shot that would eliminate a high-value target but might also endanger civilians. Elena's response impressed the psychologist. "I would need to assess the immediate threat posed by the target versus the potential civilian casualties," Elena said calmly. "If the target poses a clear and present danger to American lives, and I could minimize civilian risk through shot placement and timing, I would take the shot, but I would also try to find alternatives that accomplish the mission with less collateral risk." Thompson noted Elena's methodical thinking and lack of emotional reactivity. "What concerns you most about potentially serving as a sniper?" Elena considered the question carefully. "Making a mistake that costs innocent lives or fails to protect my fellow Marines. The responsibility would be enormous, and I want to make sure I'm worthy of that trust." 3 weeks later, Elena received her acceptance letter to Scout Sniper School at Quantico, Virginia. She would be one of only 3 women in a class of 48 candidates, and at 21, she was also among the youngest. The odds were stacked against her, but Elena had never been deterred by long odds. The night before leaving for Quantico, Elena called her grandfather to tell him the news. Grandpa Eduardo, now in his 80s, listened quietly as she explained what sniper school would involve. "Mija," he said finally, "I'm proud of you for taking on this challenge. But remember what I always told you about shooting. It's not about the gun, or even the target. It's about knowing yourself, controlling your breathing, and making the right decision at the right moment. If you can do that, you'll succeed at whatever they throw at you." Elena arrived at Quantico on a cold Monday morning in November, carrying everything she owned in a single duffel bag. The Scout Sniper School compound looked like a small military city, with ranges extending in every direction. Classrooms filled with advanced optical equipment and obstacle courses that seemed designed by someone with a sadistic imagination. The first day began at 0430 hours with a physical fitness test that would have challenged Olympic athletes. Candidates had to complete a timed run, pull-ups, sit-ups, and a series of functional fitness challenges while carrying full gear. Alina finished in the top 5, earning nods of approval from the instructors who had expected her to struggle with the physical demands. Gunnery Sergeant Robert Hayes, the school's senior instructor, addressed the candidates after the initial fitness test. He was a compact man with 22 years of Marine experience, including multiple deployments as a sniper in Iraq and Afghanistan. His reputation for producing exceptional snipers was matched only by his reputation for eliminating candidates who couldn't meet his standards. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the most demanding training you will ever experience, Gunny Hayes began. Over the next 10 weeks, we will teach you skills that will make you some of the most lethal individuals on the planet. We will also test your character, your judgment, and your ability to make impossible decisions under impossible circumstances. He paused, scanning the faces of the candidates. Look around you. Statistically, 38 of you will not graduate from this program. This is not a failure of the school or the instructors. This is simply the reality that not everyone is suited for this kind of work. There is no shame in recognizing your limitations. Elena looked around at her fellow candidates. They were an impressive group, experienced infantry marines, reconnaissance specialists, and a few candidates from other branches of the military. Many had combat experience, advanced degrees, or specialized training that seemed to give them significant advantages over a young Marine who had never been deployed. The first week focused on fundamental marksmanship skills, but at a level of precision that Elena had never encountered. Candidates were expected to hit targets the size of playing cards at distances exceeding 600 yards, using equipment they had to maintain and calibrate themselves. The margin for error was virtually non-existent. During one early shooting exercise, Elena found herself struggling with a particular rifle that seemed to pull shots slightly to the left. While other candidates simply compensated for the weapon's quirks, Elena spent her free time that evening completely disassembling and cleaning the rifle, adjusting the scope mount, and testing different ammunition loads until she identified the problem. Instructor Staff Sergeant Michael Brooks noticed Elena's methodical approach. "Rodriguez, what are you doing to that rifle?" "The scope mount was slightly loose, sir. It was causing inconsistent point of impact. I've torqued it to specification and tested it with 3 different ammunition types. The groups are much tighter now." Staff Sergeant Brooks examined Elena's target sheets from that evening's practice. Where she had been shooting 3-inch groups in the morning, she was now consistently shooting groups smaller than 1 inch at the same distance. "Outstanding work, Rodriguez. That kind of attention to detail will serve you well." As the weeks progressed, the training became increasingly complex. Candidates learned advanced ballistics, weather reading, camouflage and concealment, observation and reporting, and the psychological aspects of sniper operations. But it was during the stalking exercises that Elena truly began to distinguish herself. Stalking was perhaps the most challenging aspect of sniper training. Candidates had to approach within 200 yards of instructor positions without being detected, using only natural camouflage and their ability to move silently across various terrain types. The instructors, equipped with high-powered optics, would scan constantly for any sign of movement, unnatural shapes, or tactical errors. Elena's first stalking attempt was a disaster. She was spotted within the first hour, her movement too quick and her camouflage inadequate for the autumn terrain. She returned to the start point frustrated but determined to learn from her mistakes. "Rodriguez," Gunny Hayes said after her failed attempt, "stalking isn't about being invisible. It's about becoming part of the environment. You're thinking like a hunter, but you need to think like prey. What would a deer do to avoid being seen? How would a snake move across open ground without being detected?" That night, Elena spent hours studying the natural environment around the training area. She observed how shadows fell at different times of day, how the wind moved vegetation, and how small animals navigated the terrain without attracting attention. She began to understand that successful stalking was as much about patience and observation as it was about physical skill. Her second stalking attempt was markedly better. She moved during periods when the wind masked any sound she might make, chose routes that kept natural obstacles between herself and the instructor positions, and took nearly twice as long to cover the same distance. This time she made it within 300 yards before being detected. By her 5th attempt, Elena had not only reached the target position undetected, but had also successfully taken simulated shots at multiple instructor positions without revealing her location. Her ability to remain motionless for hours at a time, combined with her increasingly sophisticated understanding of camouflage, made her virtually invisible to even experienced instructors. "Rodriguez has some kind of gift for this," Instructor Staff Sergeant Lisa Chen told Gunny Hayes after one particularly impressive stalking exercise. I was looking directly at her position with 12 power optics, and I couldn't pick her out until she moved to take the shot. She's like a ghost. The psychological pressure of sniper school was as challenging as the physical and technical demands. Candidates were constantly evaluated, ranked, and compared to their peers. Those who struggled were quickly identified and counseled, with many choosing to voluntarily withdraw rather than face the embarrassment of being eliminated. Elena watched as candidate after candidate packed their gear and left the program. Some left due to physical limitations, others because they couldn't master the technical skills, and still others because they couldn't handle the psychological pressure of knowing that their future actions might involve taking human lives. During the 7th week of training, the class faced its most challenging exercise, a 3-day field problem that would test everything they had learned. Candidates were divided into 2-person teams and given a series of missions that had to be completed in sequence, each building on the success of the previous one. Elena was partnered with Corporal James "Tank" Rodriguez, an experienced infantry marine from Chicago who had earned his nickname through his aggressive fighting style and impressive physical strength. Tank was everything Elena wasn't: loud, emotional, and prone to solving problems through direct action rather than careful planning. Their first mission required them to observe and report on simulated enemy activity at a mock village 3 kilometers away, then move to a new position and eliminate specific targets without being detected. The exercise was designed to test not only their technical skills but also their ability to work as a team under pressure. Elena suggested that they spend the first hour studying the route and identifying potential problems before moving. Tank was eager to begin immediately, arguing that they were wasting valuable time. Their different approaches led to their first serious disagreement. "Rodriguez, we need to move now if we're going to complete this mission on schedule," Tank argued. "We can figure out the details as we go." Elena remained calm but firm. "Tank, if we move without proper planning, we'll end up compromised or lost. Give me 30 more minutes to study the terrain and plan our route. I promise we'll make up the time." Tank reluctantly agreed, and Elena spent the next 30 minutes creating a detailed movement plan that accounted for likely instructor positions, natural cover and concealment, and contingency routes if they encountered problems. Her careful planning proved invaluable when they discovered that their primary route was being watched by instructors. Using an alternate route that Elena had identified during her planning phase, they successfully reached their observation position without being detected. Over the next 6 hours, they documented simulated enemy activity, identified high-value targets, and gathered intelligence that would be crucial for subsequent missions. Their success in the first mission established a pattern for their partnership. Elena's methodical approach to planning and Tank's aggressive execution of those plans proved to be a powerful combination. By the end of the 3-day exercise, their team had completed all assigned missions and had been commended for their innovative solutions to several unexpected challenges. The final week of sniper school culminated in graduation ceremonies for the 23 candidates who had successfully completed the program. Elena had not only graduated but had finished second in her class overall, earning the respect of instructors and fellow students alike. During the graduation ceremony, Gunny Hayes called Elena forward to receive a special recognition award for exceptional performance in fieldcraft and tactical thinking. "Ladies and gentlemen, Corporal Rodriguez represents the future of Marine Corps snipers. Her combination of technical skill, tactical innovation, and leadership potential makes her exactly the kind of Marine we need in today's complex operating environment." As Elena stood at attention receiving her certificate, she thought about the journey that had brought her to this moment. From Sunday afternoons on her grandfather's porch to the yellow footprints at Paris Island to this graduation ceremony, every step had prepared her for what lay ahead. 2 weeks later, Elena received her orders. She would be assigned to the 3rd Marine Expeditionary Force in Iraq, where she would serve as part of a sniper team supporting infantry operations in Al-Anbar province. It was exactly the kind of assignment she had hoped for, an opportunity to put her training to use in real-world conditions, where the stakes were measured in lives rather than test scores. Elena Rodriguez stepped off the C-130 transport aircraft at Al-Assad Air Base in Iraq on a scorching Tuesday morning in August. The heat hit her like a physical blow, even though it was barely past dawn. The temperature gauge at the Flight Operations Center read 105 degrees Fahrenheit, and the day was just beginning. She had trained in hot weather at Quantico and 29 Palms, but this was different. This was the kind of heat that made breathing feel like work. The base was a sprawling complex of concrete structures, armored vehicles, and endless coils of razor wire stretching toward the horizon. Helicopters thundered overhead constantly, carrying troops and supplies to forward operating bases throughout Al-Anbar province. The air smelled of diesel fuel, burning trash, and something else Elena couldn't identify, but that veteran Marines simply called Iraq. Elena's new commanding officer, Captain David Morrison, met her at the transportation office. Captain Morrison was a compact man with intelligent eyes and the kind of deep tan that came from multiple deployments in the Middle East. He had been leading sniper teams in Iraq for 18 months and had a reputation for bringing his Marines home alive. "Welcome to paradise, Rodriguez," Captain Morrison said with a wry smile. "I've read your file from sniper school. Impressive scores, especially in fieldcraft and tactical thinking. How do you feel about putting those skills to work in the real world?" "Ready to contribute to the mission, sir," Elena replied, maintaining military bearing despite her fatigue from the long flight. Captain Morrison nodded approvingly. "Good answer. Let me be direct with you, Rodriguez. This isn't training anymore. The people we're fighting here are experienced, well-equipped, and they know this terrain better than we do. They've been killing American soldiers for 3 years, and they're very good at it. Your job is to be better." He led Elena to a waiting Humvee for the drive to Forward Operating Base Courage, where her sniper team was based. As they drove through the Iraqi countryside, Captain Morrison explained the tactical situation they were facing. "Al Anbar province is the heart of the insurgency," he said, scanning the roadside for potential threats. "The enemy has had years to prepare fighting positions, hide weapons caches, and establish support networks among the local population. They use snipers to pin down our patrols, then hit us with improvised explosive devices and rocket-propelled grenades. G-line, their souls. G-line, their soul." They were passing through. It was a mixture of urban areas with multi-story buildings perfect for sniper hides, agricultural land with drainage ditches and tree lines that provided natural concealment, and open desert where long-range engagements were the norm. Every type of terrain presented unique challenges and opportunities. "How effective have enemy snipers been against our forces?" Elena asked. Captain Morrison's expression darkened. "Too effective. In the past 6 months, they've killed or wounded 37 American service members in this area of operations. We've managed to eliminate some of them, but they keep recruiting new shooters. That's where you come in." Forward Operating Base Courage was smaller than Al-Assad, but better positioned for conducting operations against insurgent strongholds. Elena was assigned to Sniper Team Bravo, led by Staff Sergeant Marcus Thompson, a veteran with 4 deployments and 12 confirmed kills. Her spotter would be Corporal Danny Martinez, a former reconnaissance Marine with exceptional skills in observation and communication. Staff Sergeant Thompson met Elena at the team's operations center, a hardened bunker that served as both briefing room and equipment storage facility. The walls were covered with detailed maps of the surrounding area, marked with known and suspected enemy positions, recent contact sites, and planned patrol routes. "Rodriguez, welcome to Sniper Team Bravo," Thompson said, extending his hand. "I've heard good things about your performance at sniper school, but school and combat are 2 very different things. Are you ready for the real deal?" Elena met his gaze steadily. "I'm ready to learn and contribute, Staff Sergeant." Thompson smiled. "Good attitude. Let me introduce you to your spotter, Corporal Martinez. Danny's been doing this for 2 years, and he's saved my life more times than I can count. Listen to everything he tells you." Corporal Martinez was a slight man with alert eyes and calloused hands that spoke of extensive field work. He had grown up in East Los Angeles and joined the Marines to escape a cycle of poverty and violence that had claimed several of his childhood friends. His motivation was personal and intense. "Rodriguez, I've read your sniper school reports," Martinez said. "Impressive stalking scores and excellent marksmanship. But those targets at Quantico don't shoot back. Out here, if you miss your first shot, you might not get a second chance." Over the next week, Elena underwent intensive orientation to the specific challenges of operating in Iraq. She learned about local customs and cultural sensitivities, studied intelligence reports on enemy tactics and equipment, and familiarized herself with the advanced optics and communication equipment her team would use. The weapons Elena would be using were a significant upgrade from her training equipment. Her primary rifle was a MiK-11 Mod 0 sniper rifle, chambered in 7.6205 1mm NATO, and equipped with a Leupold Mark IV telescopic sight. The rifle was capable of consistent accuracy at ranges exceeding 800 meters and had been used successfully by Marine snipers throughout Iraq and Afghanistan. During her first week, Elena spent hours at the base's shooting range, familiarizing herself with how the rifle performed in Iraq's challenging environmental conditions. The extreme heat affected ammunition performance and scope adjustments in ways she had never experienced during training. The constant wind and dust required special attention to equipment maintenance and shooting technique. The heat here does weird things to ballistics, Martinez explained during one range session. Bullets can behave differently at 120 degrees than they do at 70 degrees. You need to account for that in your shooting solutions. Alina made detailed notes about how different ammunition types performed in the extreme conditions, creating reference charts that would help her make accurate shots when lives depended on her precision. Her methodical approach impressed the other members of Sniper Team Bravo, who recognized that attention to detail could mean the difference between mission success and catastrophic failure. Elena's first combat mission came 10 days after her arrival at FOB Courage. Intelligence reports indicated that enemy snipers were operating from a series of buildings in the town of Hit, approximately 15 kilometers from the base. These snipers had been responsible for several recent attacks on American patrols, and Command wanted them eliminated before they could strike again. The mission would be Elena's first real test as a combat sniper. She would provide overwatch for a patrol that was deliberately exposing itself as bait to draw the enemy snipers into revealing their positions. Once the enemy snipers took shots at the patrol, Elena would have a brief window to locate and eliminate them before they could disappear back into the urban maze. Staff Sergeant Thompson briefed the mission the night before the operation. "This is a high-risk mission for everyone involved," he explained to the assembled team. "The patrol will be in genuine danger from the moment they enter the kill zone. If we don't eliminate these snipers quickly and effectively, we could lose American lives." Elena spent that evening studying satellite photographs of Hit, memorizing the layout of streets and buildings, identifying likely sniper hides, and planning shooting solutions for multiple engagement scenarios. She calculated range cards for dozens of potential target locations, accounting for wind, temperature, and the ballistic characteristics of her ammunition. The team inserted by helicopter before dawn, landing 3 kilometers from Hit, and moving on foot to their observation positions. Elena's hide site was on a low hill overlooking the town, providing excellent fields of fire, but requiring precise camouflage to avoid detection by enemy forces. As the sun rose, Elena began systematic observation of the urban area below. Through her scope, she could see the daily life of an Iraqi town beginning. Vendors setting up market stalls, children walking to school, and adults heading to work. The normalcy of the scene was surreal given the lethal game that was about to unfold. "This is where it gets real," Martinez whispered from beside her. "Remember, the enemy snipers are watching too. They're looking for the same things we are. Good fields of fire, concealed positions, and escape routes. Think like they think." At 0800 hours, the American patrol entered Hit according to plan. Elena watched through her scope as the Marines moved through the streets in a deliberately predictable pattern, following routes that would expose them to fire from known enemy positions. The patrol leader, Lieutenant Johnson, was gambling with his Marines' lives based on intelligence that might or might not be accurate. For the first hour, nothing happened. The patrol moved through its planned route while Elena scanned constantly for any sign of enemy activity. The tension was exhausting, requiring her to maintain perfect focus while fighting fatigue and the effects of the rapidly increasing heat. At 0923 hours, Elena noticed movement in a third-story window of a building 800 meters away. The movement was subtle, just a slight shift in shadows that most observers would have missed. But Elena's training had taught her to recognize the tiny visual signatures that indicated human presence in seemingly empty buildings. "I've got possible movement in Building 7, third floor, northeast window," Elena whispered into her radio. Martinez immediately shifted his observation to confirm Elena's sighting. After several seconds, he saw it too, the barely perceptible shift of shadows that indicated someone was moving carefully inside the building. "Contact confirmed," Martinez replied. "Range 827 meters. Wind 3 to 5 miles per hour from the southwest." Elena made minute adjustments to her scope and calculated her shooting solution. At this range, with current environmental conditions, she would need to aim approximately 18 inches high and 6 inches to the right to compensate for bullet drop and wind drift. The target window was narrow, and she would have only seconds to make an accurate shot if the enemy sniper revealed himself. At 0931 hours, the enemy sniper made his fatal mistake. As the American patrol moved into his predetermined kill zone, he shifted position to acquire a better shooting angle. For just a moment, his head and shoulders were silhouetted against the window opening, providing Elena with a clear target. "Target acquired," Elena whispered, settling her crosshairs on the center of the enemy sniper's chest. Everything Elena had learned during months of training came together in that single moment. Her breathing was controlled and steady, her grip on the rifle consistent and firm, her trigger finger applying pressure smoothly and straight back. The scope picture was crystal clear, showing the enemy sniper preparing to take a shot that would kill or wound an American Marine. Elena's shot broke cleanly, the rifle recoiling against her shoulder as the bullet began its 827-meter journey to the target. Through her scope, she watched the enemy sniper jerk backward and disappear from view. The shot had been perfect, striking center mass and eliminating the threat instantaneously. Target down, Elena reported, already scanning for additional threats. Her first combat kill had been completed successfully, but the mission was far from over. The sound of Elena's rifle shot echoed across HIT, immediately alerting other enemy forces to the presence of American snipers. Within seconds, Elena began receiving small arms fire from multiple locations as enemy fighters attempted to suppress her position and protect their remaining snipers. "We're taking fire from the market area," Martinez reported, identifying muzzle flashes from AK-47 rifles being fired in Elena's direction. "They're trying to pin us down while their snipers reposition." Elena remained calm despite the bullets cracking overhead and impacting the dirt around her position. Her training had prepared her for this exact situation, maintaining focus on the primary mission while under enemy fire. She continued scanning for additional enemy snipers while Martinez called for artillery support to suppress the small arms fire. At 0947 hours, Elena spotted a second enemy sniper attempting to move between buildings. The sniper was using a drainage ditch for concealment, but Elena's elevated position allowed her to see him clearly as he low-crawled between cover positions. This target was moving, making the shot significantly more challenging. Elena tracked the moving sniper through her scope, calculating lead time and adjusting her point of aim to intercept him when he reached a predictable position. She had practiced this type of shot hundreds of times during training, but this was her first attempt against a real enemy under combat conditions. The enemy sniper paused briefly at the corner of a building, checking for threats before continuing his movement. Elena seized the opportunity, leading her target appropriately and firing when he was momentarily stationary. Her second shot was as precise as her first, striking the enemy sniper and eliminating him before he could reach his intended firing position. "Second target down," Elena reported, continuing to scan for additional threats. The firefight continued for another 20 minutes as American artillery and air support eliminated the remaining enemy resistance in HIT. Elena maintained overwatch throughout the engagement, protecting the ground patrol while they conducted building searches and collected intelligence from the eliminated sniper positions. During the post-mission debriefing, Lieutenant Johnson personally thanked Elena for her performance. "Rodriguez, your shots today saved American lives. Those snipers were in position to hit my Marines, and you eliminated them before they could fire. Outstanding work." Staff Sergeant Thompson was equally impressed. "Rodriguez, I've seen a lot of new snipers in combat, and most of them struggle with their first engagement. You performed like a veteran today. Keep this up, and you're going to be a very effective member of this team." That night, Elena reflected on her first combat experience. The technical aspects of the shots had been challenging but manageable, similar to many training scenarios she had completed. What surprised her was how calm she had remained under pressure, how naturally the decision-making process had come to her, and how little emotional impact the kills had on her psyche. Elena's grandfather had always told her that soldiers knew their true nature only when tested in combat. That test had come earlier than Elena expected, but she had passed it convincingly. She was not just a skilled marksman. She was a combat sniper capable of making life-and-death decisions under the most extreme circumstances. Over the following weeks, Elena's reputation spread throughout the brigade. Her precision shooting and tactical awareness made her a requested asset for high-risk missions, and her success rate was quickly approaching legendary status. She had found her calling in the most dangerous profession in the world. Word of Elena's exceptional performance reached higher command levels, and she began receiving mission assignments that reflected her growing reputation. Brigade commanders specifically requested her team for operations where precision and reliability were critical, and Elena consistently delivered results that exceeded expectations. As Elena prepared for her next mission, she understood that her performance in HIT had been just the beginning. The enemy was adaptive and intelligent, constantly changing tactics and improving their capabilities. Each engagement would present new challenges, and Elena would need to continue evolving her skills to stay ahead of threats that were becoming increasingly sophisticated and dangerous. 3 months after her first successful engagement in HIT, Elena Rodriguez had earned a nickname that was whispered with both respect and fear throughout Al-Anbar province. Iraqi insurgents called her Malak al-Maut, the Angel of Death. American forces simply called her the Phantom because of her ability to eliminate targets and vanish without a trace. By December, Elena had 17 confirmed kills, making her one of the most successful snipers in the entire theater of operations. The insurgents had begun changing their tactics specifically to counter Elena's effectiveness. They moved primarily at night, used decoys and false positions to confuse American snipers, and had placed a bounty of $50,000 on Elena's head. Intelligence reports indicated that foreign fighters were being brought in specifically to hunt her, and enemy propaganda videos mentioned the American woman sniper who was terrorizing their forces. Elena's commanding officer, Captain Morrison, called her into his office on a cold December morning for a mission briefing, unlike any she had received before. The office was cramped and functional, with maps covering every wall and intelligence reports stacked on every available surface. The captain looked tired, showing the strain of 6 months of continuous combat operations. "Rodriguez, I have a mission for you that's going to test everything you've learned," Captain Morrison began, gesturing for her to take a seat. "Intelligence indicates that a high-value target is operating out of Ramadi. This individual has been responsible for coordinating sniper attacks against our forces throughout the province." Elena studied the satellite photographs Captain Morrison placed on his desk. Ramadi was one of the most dangerous cities in Iraq, an urban maze of narrow streets, multi-story buildings, and hidden tunnels that the insurgents had turned into a fortress.
We, insurgents, had turned into a fortress.
American forces had been fighting for control of the city for over a year with limited success. "Sir, what do we know about this target?"
Elena asked, examining the detailed intelligence packet.
His name is Khalil Hassan, and he's a former Iraqi Republican Guard officer with extensive sniper training. He's been responsible for training enemy snipers throughout the province, and our intelligence estimates that his students have killed or wounded over 60 American service members. Captain Morrison pulled out additional photographs showing Hassan's suspected location and movement patterns. Hassan is smart, experienced, and extremely dangerous. He never stays in one location for more than a few hours. He uses multiple body doubles to confuse our surveillance, and is surrounded by a network of supporters who provide early warning of American operations. Elena studied the intelligence materials carefully. Hassan represented a different type of challenge than the target she had engaged previously. This wasn't an opportunistic sniper taking shots at American patrols. This was a professional enemy operator who understood American tactics and had been successfully evading capture for over 8 months.
"What's the mission profile, sir?" Elena asked.
You and your team will insert into Ramadi and establish observation on Hassan's suspected safe house.
When he appears, you'll have authorization to take the shot. The challenge is that you'll be operating in extremely hostile territory with limited support options. Captain Morrison's expression grew more serious. "Rodriguez, I want you to understand the risks involved in this mission. Ramadi is completely under enemy control except for our forward operating bases. If your team is discovered or compromised, extraction might not be possible. Are you prepared for that level of risk?" Elena considered the question carefully. She had volunteered for dangerous missions before, but this assignment would place her deeper in enemy territory than any American sniper had operated in months. The chances of the mission succeeding were uncertain, and the consequences of failure could be catastrophic. "Sir, if eliminating Hassan will save American lives, then I'm prepared to accept the risk," Elena replied. Preparations for the mission took 2 weeks. Elena worked with intelligence analysts to study every available detail about Hassan's operations, movement patterns, and security procedures. She memorized the layout of Ramadi's streets, identified potential hide sites and escape routes, and coordinated with Special Operations Forces who would provide distant overwatch during the mission. Elena's team for this mission included Corporal Martinez as her spotter and Sergeant Jake Williams, a communications specialist with extensive urban combat experience. Williams had grown up in Detroit and understood the challenges of operating in complex urban environments where every building could conceal threats. The team's equipment was selected specifically for the urban environment and extended duration of the mission. Elena would carry a Mark 11 Mod 0 sniper rifle with a suppressor to reduce her acoustic signature, night vision equipment for movement during hours of darkness, and sufficient ammunition and supplies to sustain operations for up to 72 hours without resupply. Elena spent the final week before the mission conducting intensive practice in urban shooting scenarios. She worked with instructors to develop techniques for engaging targets from inside buildings, through windows, and in the complex lighting conditions that characterized urban combat. Every detail could affect the success or failure of her shot against Hassan. The insertion was scheduled for 0200 hours on a moonless Tuesday night. Elena's team would approach Ramadi on foot, moving through agricultural areas and drainage ditches to avoid enemy patrols and observation posts. The route was 15 kilometers long and would require 8 hours of careful movement to avoid detection. Elena felt different as she prepared for this mission. Her previous engagements had been tactical successes, but this operation had strategic implications. Eliminating Hassan would disrupt enemy sniper operations throughout the province and could save dozens of American lives over the coming months. The weight of responsibility was heavier than anything Elena had experienced. The team departed FOB Courage at midnight, moving through the Iraqi countryside under cover of darkness. Elena had blackened her face and hands to reduce visibility, and her equipment was configured to eliminate any noise that might reveal their presence to enemy sentries. Every step required careful attention to terrain and potential threats. Movement through the agricultural areas outside Ramadi required patience and precision. Elena's team had to cross several roads that were regularly patrolled by enemy forces, navigate through fields where improvised explosive devices might be hidden, and maintain communication discipline while covering the long distance to their objective. At 0630 hours, Elena's team reached their planned observation position in a partially destroyed building 800 meters from Hassan's suspected safe house. The building had been damaged by artillery fire months earlier, but enough structure remained to provide concealment and protection from enemy observation. Elena immediately began establishing her hide site and range cards for potential engagement scenarios. The observation position provided excellent visibility of the target building and surrounding area, but it also placed Elena's team in extreme danger. They were surrounded by enemy-controlled territory with no immediate support available, and discovery would almost certainly result in their capture or death. "This place gives me the creeps," Sergeant Williams whispered as he set up his communication equipment. "We're completely surrounded by bad guys, and they outnumber us about 1,000 to 1. Martinez was more philosophical about their situation. "Jake, this is what we train for. Rodriguez is the best shot I've ever seen, and we've got good observation and fields of fire. If Hassan shows up, we can complete the mission." Elena spent the first day conducting systematic observation of the target building and surrounding area. She identified the normal patterns of civilian activity, catalogued the locations and schedules of enemy security positions, and began building a detailed picture of Hassan's operational environment. The target building was a 3-story structure with multiple entrances and exits, surrounded by other buildings that provided cover and concealment for Hassan's security personnel. Elena counted at least 12 armed men providing security, and intelligence reports suggested that additional fighters were positioned in nearby buildings. On the second day, Elena noticed subtle changes in the security pattern around the target building. Additional guards appeared at key intersections. Civilian traffic was redirected away from the area, and Elena observed what appeared to be counter-surveillance activities designed to detect American observation posts. "Something's happening," Elena whispered to Martinez. "The security posture has changed significantly since yesterday. Either Hassan is here, or they're expecting him soon." Martinez confirmed Elena's observations through his spotting scope. The increased security activity was consistent with intelligence reports about Hassan's security procedures, suggesting that the target might finally be within range. At 13:47 hours on the third day, Elena spotted a man matching Hassan's description entering the target building through a rear entrance. The individual was wearing civilian clothing, but moved with military bearing and was surrounded by a significant security detail. Elena's heart rate increased as she realized that her target might finally be available. "Possible target identification," Elena reported quietly. "Adult male, approximately 6 feet tall, dark beard, moving with security detail. He matches Hassan's physical description." Martinez studied the target through his spotting scope, comparing what he observed with the intelligence photographs they had memorized. "I concur with your assessment. Physical characteristics and movement patterns are consistent with Hassan." Elena began calculating her shooting solution for an engagement at 847 meters. The target was inside the building but occasionally appeared at windows on the second floor, providing brief opportunities for a precision shot. Elena would have to time her shot perfectly when Hassan appeared in a window and remained stationary long enough for her to engage. Wind conditions were challenging, with gusts up to 15 miles per hour, creating complex patterns between Elena's position and the target building. She spent 30 minutes studying the movement of dust and debris to understand how wind would affect her bullet's trajectory over the 847-meter distance. At 15:23 hours, Hassan appeared at a second-floor window and remained stationary for approximately 15 seconds, apparently observing the surrounding area for threats. Elena had her crosshairs centered on his chest, but she hesitated to take the shot because she couldn't be absolutely certain of his identity at that distance. Range 847 meters, wind 8 to 12 miles per hour from the northwest, Martinez reported. I have positive identification. This is Hassan. Elena's finger moved to her rifle's trigger as she prepared to take the shot that would eliminate one of the most dangerous enemy operators in Iraq. Everything in her training had prepared her for this moment, but the pressure was unlike anything she had experienced before. Hassan moved away from the window before Elena could fire, disappearing back into the interior of the building. Elena maintained her shooting position, knowing that Hassan might reappear at any moment and provide another opportunity for engagement. For the next 2 hours, Elena maintained perfect shooting position while scanning constantly for Hassan's reappearance. The physical and mental strain was exhausting, requiring her to remain motionless and alert while fighting fatigue and the effects of adrenaline. At 17:34 hours, Hassan appeared at a different window on the 3rd floor of the building. This position provided an even clearer shot with better lighting and less visual obstruction. Elena immediately adjusted her point of aim for the new range and angle. Target reacquired, 3rd floor, northwest window. Elena whispered, range 863 meters. This time, Elena didn't hesitate. Hassan was clearly visible and stationary, providing a perfect target for her precision shot. Elena controlled her breathing, verified her shooting solution one final time, and began applying pressure to her rifle's trigger. The shot broke cleanly, and Elena watched through her scope as Hassan jerked backward and disappeared from view. The bullet had traveled 863 meters in less than 1 second, striking Hassan in the upper chest and eliminating the target that had been responsible for so much American suffering. Target down, Elena reported with professional calm. Hassan has been eliminated. The immediate aftermath of Elena's shot was chaos. Enemy fighters throughout the area began firing in all directions, attempting to locate and suppress the American sniper position. Rocket-propelled grenades and small arms fire filled the air as Elena's team prepared for immediate extraction. Time to go, Sergeant Williams announced as he called for emergency extraction. The entire neighborhood is lighting up, and they're going to find us soon. Elena quickly disassembled her shooting position and prepared for movement. The team had planned multiple escape routes for exactly this situation, and Elena led them toward their primary extraction point while enemy forces searched frantically for their location. The extraction was successful, but barely. Elena's team reached their helicopter landing zone just minutes before enemy forces would have intercepted them. As the helicopter lifted off from the landing zone, Elena could see dozens of enemy fighters converging on the area they had just evacuated. During the post-mission debrief, Elena learned that Hassan's elimination had immediate effects throughout Al-Anbar province. Intercepted enemy communications indicated that his death had created significant disruption in insurgent sniper operations, and American casualties from enemy sniper fire decreased dramatically in the following weeks. Elena's success in eliminating Hassan elevated her reputation to legendary status among both American and enemy forces. She had demonstrated that no target was beyond her reach, no matter how well protected or cleverly hidden. The mission had been her most challenging yet, but Elena had proven herself capable of operating at the highest levels of sniper warfare. As Elena reflected on the Hassan mission, she understood that her role in the war had evolved beyond simple tactical support. She had become a strategic asset whose actions could affect the overall course of military operations. And the responsibility that came with that capability was both exciting and sobering. The call came in at 13:47 hours, on a sweltering July afternoon. Elena Rodriguez was cleaning her rifle in the weapons maintenance bay at Forward Operating Base Liberty when Sergeant Martinez burst through the door, his face grim with urgency. "Rodriguez, we've got a situation," Martinez said breathlessly. 8-man SEAL team is pinned down in Ramadi. Multiple enemy snipers have them trapped, and they've already taken casualties. Command wants us airborne in 10 minutes. Navy SEALs were America's elite warriors, trained to handle the most dangerous missions in the world. If a SEAL team was pinned down and calling for help, the situation had to be desperate. She immediately began gathering her equipment while Martinez briefed her on what little information they had. The SEAL team was conducting a high-value target raid in the industrial district when they walked into an ambush. Martinez explained rapidly. Intelligence estimates 3 to 4 enemy snipers have them completely immobilized. They've been stuck there for over an hour, and the situation is deteriorating rapidly. Elena's mind raced as she calculated the tactical challenges they would face. The industrial district of Ramadi was a maze of multi-storied buildings, smokestacks, and metal structures that provided countless hiding places for enemy snipers. Locating and eliminating multiple targets in that environment would require precision and speed that push the limits of human capability.
What's our insertion method? Elena asked as she completed her equipment check. Black Hawk helicopter, fast rope directly onto a building complex 400 meters from the SEAL position, Martinez replied. We'll have to move quickly and quietly to get into position without alerting the enemy snipers to our presence. Elena had trained for exactly this type of rapid deployment scenario, that this would be her first real-world application under maximum pressure. The lives of 8 Navy SEALs depended on her ability to perform flawlessly in an environment designed to favor the enemy.
Staff Sergeant Thompson joined them as they headed toward the helicopter landing zone. His expression was tense, reflecting the gravity of the situation they were about to enter. Thompson had worked with Navy SEAL teams before and understood their capabilities and limitations better than most Marines. Rodriguez, this is going to be different from anything you've done before, Thompson said as they walked. SEALs don't call for help unless they're in serious trouble. These enemy snipers are good enough to pin down America's best, which means they're exceptionally dangerous. The helicopter flight to Ramadi took 12 minutes, during which Elena studied aerial photographs of the target area and began developing her tactical approach. The industrial district was a nightmare of visual obstacles and potential sniper hides, requiring her to prioritize targets and engage them in a sequence that would minimize the time the SEAL team remained exposed. As the Black Hawk approached the insertion point, Elena could hear radio traffic from the pinned SEAL team. The voice belonged to Staff Sergeant Mike Torres, the team leader, and his reports painted a picture of a desperate tactical situation. Liberty Base, this is Neptune 7. We are still heavily engaged by enemy snipers. Estimate 4 shooters in elevated positions. We have 2 urgent casualties and limited ammunition.
Request immediate support. Elena's helicopter pilot, Chief Warrant Officer Sarah Chen, positioned the aircraft directly over their planned insertion building.
60 seconds to insertion, Chen announced over the intercom. I'm getting small arms fire from multiple buildings. These guys are really stirred up. Elena checked her equipment one final time as the helicopter began its descent. She was carrying her Mike 11 Mod 0 sniper rifle with match-grade ammunition, advanced optics equipment for target identification, and communication gear to coordinate with both the helicopter and the SEAL team. Every piece of equipment had been selected specifically for this type of urban rescue mission. The fast rope insertion placed Elena's team on the roof of a 6-story building that provided excellent observation of the area where the SEALs were trapped. Elena immediately began scanning for enemy sniper positions, while Martinez established communications with the SEAL team and Thompson coordinated with their helicopter support. Neptune 7, this is Phantom Team. We are in position and beginning target acquisition. Elena transmitted to the SEAL team leader. Torres responded immediately, relief evident in his voice. Phantom Team, we are taking accurate fire from at least 3 positions. We need those shooters eliminated before we can move to extract our casualties. Elena began systematic scanning of the buildings surrounding the SEAL position, looking for the visual signatures that would reveal enemy sniper locations. The urban environment created complex shadows and visual patterns that could easily conceal a skilled marksman, requiring Elena to use every technique she had learned during months of combat operations. Through her scope, Elena observed the tactical situation the SEALs were facing. 8 warriors who normally dominated any battlefield were pressed against concrete barriers and vehicle hulks, unable to move because enemy snipers commanded every avenue of approach. 2 SEALs were clearly wounded, lying motionless while their teammates provided medical aid under fire. I can see your position, Elena transmitted to Torres. Confirm you have 2 urgent casualties requiring immediate evacuation. Confirmed, Torres replied. Petty Officer Jackson took a round to the chest, and Petty Officer Kumar has a head wound. We need to get them out of here soon or we're going to lose them. Elena felt the weight of responsibility settle on her shoulders. 2 American warriors were dying while enemy snipers prevented their evacuation. Every second Elena took to locate and eliminate those snipers brought Jackson and Kumar closer to death. Martinez had established observation positions that covered different sectors of the urban battlefield. Elena, I've got movement in the building complex to the northeast, approximately 600 meters from the SEAL position, Martinez reported. Possible sniper position in the 3rd floor windows. Elena shifted her observation to the indicated building. After several minutes of careful scanning, she spotted a slight shadow inconsistency in one of the windows that suggested human presence. The potential target was partially concealed, but Elena could make out enough detail to confirm it was an enemy sniper. Target acquired, Building Alpha, 3rd floor, northeast window, Elena reported. Range 647 meters. Preparing to engage. Elena calculated her shooting solution while observing the target's behavior patterns. The enemy sniper was disciplined and patient, firing only occasionally to avoid revealing his exact position. Elena would need to time her shot perfectly to catch him when he was exposed enough to provide a clear target. At 14:02 hours, the enemy sniper shifted position to acquire a better angle on the SEAL team. For approximately 3 seconds, his upper torso was clearly visible in Elena's scope, providing the target she needed. Elena's shot was immediate and precise, striking the enemy sniper's center mass and eliminating him instantly. First target down, Elena reported, continuing to scan for additional threats. The sound of Elena's rifle shot echoed across the urban battlefield, immediately alerting the remaining enemy snipers to her presence. Within seconds, Elena began receiving return fire from multiple positions as the enemy snipers attempted to suppress her while repositioning to avoid her next shot. "They know we're here now," Thompson observed as bullets impacted the building around their position. "We need to move fast before they coordinate a response." Elena maintained her scanning despite the incoming fire, knowing that the remaining enemy snipers posed a continuing threat to the SEAL team. Through her scope, she observed muzzle flashes from a building approximately 800 meters to the west, indicating the position of a second enemy sniper. Second target identified, Building Bravo, 4th floor, west side. Elena transmitted.
This one's at extended range, approximately 820 meters.
The second enemy sniper was positioned in a location that provided excellent fields of fire against the SEAL team, but limited concealment from Elena's elevated position.
Elena could see enough of the target to engage, but the 820-meter shot would be challenging given the wind conditions and urban heat distortion. Elena made careful adjustments to her scope to account for the extended range and environmental factors. At 820 meters, even minor errors in calculation or execution could result in a complete miss. And Elena might not get a second chance if the enemy sniper relocated after her shot. The target presented himself for engagement at 14:09 hours, appearing briefly at a window to take a shot at the SEAL team. Elena's response was immediate and accurate, her bullet traveling the 820-meter distance and striking the enemy sniper before he could complete his own shot. Second target eliminated, Elena reported. "SEALs, you should have reduced fire from the western sector." Torres confirmed Elena's assessment. "Phantom team, the fire from the west has stopped." "Outstanding shooting. We still have at least one more sniper to the south who has us pinned." Elena began scanning the southern sector, looking for the remaining enemy sniper, who was preventing the SEAL team from evacuating their wounded. This sniper was proving more elusive than the first two, using superior concealment techniques and firing only briefly before changing positions. Martinez spotted movement in an industrial complex approximately 900 meters south of the SEAL position. "Elena, check the factory buildings to the south. I saw muzzle flash from one of the smokestacks, but I can't pinpoint the exact location." Elena studied the industrial complex through her scope, noting the multiple levels, walkways, and structures that could conceal a sniper. The factory buildings were more challenging than typical urban structures because they offered three-dimensional hiding places that were difficult to observe and even more difficult to engage. At 14:16 hours, Elena spotted the enemy sniper positioned on a maintenance walkway between two smokestacks. The target was partially concealed by industrial equipment, but Elena could see enough of his silhouette to engage. This would be her most challenging shot yet, requiring precision at extreme range with minimal target exposure. Third target acquired, industrial complex elevated walkway between smokestacks. Elena transmitted. Range approximately 920 meters. This is a difficult shot with limited target exposure. Elena spent several minutes studying the target and calculating her shooting solution. The extreme range, complex wind patterns around the industrial structures, and minimal target visibility made this engagement extremely challenging. Elena would have one shot to eliminate this sniper before he repositioned to a location where she couldn't engage him. The enemy sniper made his fatal error at 14:21 hours when he moved to a position that provided better observation of the SEAL team, but exposed more of his body to Elena's position. Elena seized the opportunity immediately, sending her third shot across 920 meters of urban battlefield to eliminate the final threat to the SEAL team. Third target down, Elena reported with professional satisfaction. All known enemy sniper positions have been neutralized. Torres immediately responded with gratitude and relief. "Phantom team, this is Neptune 7. Outstanding work. We are beginning movement to evacuate our casualties. Your shooting saved American lives today.
Elena maintained overwatch while the SEAL team extracted their wounded and moved toward a landing zone where medical helicopters were waiting. Her elimination of 3 enemy snipers in less than 20 minutes had broken the ambush that had trapped 8 of America's elite warriors and saved the lives of 2 critically wounded SEALs. During the helicopter flight back to base, Elena reflected on the mission that would become legendary throughout the special operations community. She had demonstrated the ability to perform under maximum pressure, engage multiple targets at extreme ranges, and make life-or-death decisions in seconds. The 12 minutes from her first shot to the SEAL team's successful extraction would be talked about for years. Staff Sergeant Thompson sat beside Elena during the return flight, his expression reflecting a mixture of pride and amazement.
Rodriguez, I've been doing this for 8 years, and I've never seen shooting like that. 3 targets, 3 kills, ranges from 650 to 920 meters, all under enemy fire. That was absolutely exceptional. Elena's performance during the SEAL rescue mission would become the stuff of military legend. Word spread rapidly throughout the special operations community about the Marine sniper who had single-handedly broken an ambush that had trapped a Navy SEAL team. Elena's reputation evolved from highly skilled marksman to something approaching mythical status. When the mission reports were filed, Elena's commanding officers used terms like extraordinary, unprecedented, and heroic to describe her performance. The mission would later be used as a case study in sniper schools, demonstrating the decisive impact that a skilled marksman could have on complex tactical situations. But for Elena, the mission represented something more personal than professional recognition. She had proven to herself that she could perform under the ultimate pressure, when the lives of America's finest warriors depended on her skill and judgment. The 12 minutes in Ramadi had tested every aspect of her training and character, and she had emerged victorious. As Elena cleaned her rifle that evening, she understood that her military career had reached a defining moment. The SEAL rescue mission would be remembered as the day when Elena Rodriguez proved that she was not just an excellent sniper, but one of the most lethal and reliable warriors in the United States military. The enemy had learned to fear her, American forces had learned to depend on her, and Elena herself had learned that there were no limits to what she could accomplish when American lives hung in the balance. The girl from San Antonio had become a legend, forged in the crucible of combat and tempered by the responsibility of protecting those who served beside her. 6 months after the SEAL rescue mission that made her a legend, Elena Rodriguez stood at the departure gate of Baghdad International Airport, preparing to return to the United States. Her deployment was complete, but the impact of her service would resonate far beyond her personal military career. In 15 months of combat operations, Elena had achieved 43 confirmed kills, making her one of the most successful snipers in modern military history. The statistics, however, told only part of Elena's story. Intelligence reports estimated that her actions had directly saved the lives of over 100 American service members, disrupted enemy operations throughout Al-Anbar province, and fundamentally changed how insurgent forces approached their fight against American forces. Elena had become more than a sniper. She had become a force multiplier whose presence on the battlefield could alter the outcome of entire operations. Colonel James Patterson, Elena's brigade commander, had requested a personal meeting before her departure. Colonel Patterson was a career infantry officer with 3 combat deployments who had seen countless Marines pass through his command. His assessment of Elena's impact was unequivocal and unprecedented. Rodriguez, in 2 years of military service, I have never witnessed a single Marine have the strategic impact that you've achieved, Colonel Patterson said during their final meeting. Your actions haven't just eliminated individual threats. You've changed the entire tactical dynamic in this area of operations. Elena listened respectfully as Colonel Patterson outlined the broader implications of her service. Enemy communications intercepted by intelligence services revealed that insurgent leaders had fundamentally altered their operational procedures specifically to avoid encountering Malak al-Maut. Recruitment had become more difficult as word spread about the American woman sniper who could eliminate targets at ranges previously thought impossible. The psychological impact of your operations extends far beyond your immediate targets, Colonel Patterson continued. Enemy fighters are now hesitant to operate in areas where they believe you might be present. That hesitation has saved American lives and given our forces significant tactical advantages. Elena's influence had also extended to American forces throughout Iraq. Her success had inspired female Marines across all military occupational specialties, demonstrating that excellence in combat was not limited by gender, but determined by skill, determination, and character. Elena had become a role model for an entire generation of female warriors who would follow in her footsteps. The most immediate impact of Elena's service was felt by the families of the American service members whose lives she had saved.
During her final week in Iraq, Elena received dozens of letters from family members who had learned about her actions through official military channels and media reports. These letters provided Elena with a personal understanding of how her military service had affected real people facing unimaginable challenges. One letter came from Mrs.
Sarah Torres, the wife of Staff Sergeant Mike Torres, the SEAL team leader whose team Elena had rescued during her legendary 12-minute engagement.
Mrs.
Torres wrote with a combination of gratitude and emotional intensity that moved Eleanor to tears.
Dear Corporal Rodriguez, my husband Mike told me about what you did in Ramadi. How you saved his team when they were pinned down and facing death.
As a military wife, I understand the risks that come with my husband's job, but knowing that warriors like you are out there protecting our finest gives me hope and comfort. You didn't just save my husband, you saved our entire family. Our children still have their father because of your skill and courage. There are no words adequate to express our gratitude. Another letter came from the parents of Petty Officer Jackson, one of the SEALs who had been critically wounded during the ambush that Elena broke up. Jackson had survived his wounds and was recovering at Walter Reed Medical Center, but his parents understood that his survival was directly attributable to Elena's actions. Corporal Rodriguez, our son David told us about the Marine sniper who saved his life in Iraq. We know that David would have died if you hadn't eliminated the enemy snipers who were preventing his evacuation. As parents, we can never adequately thank you for giving us our son back. David speaks of you with a respect and admiration that we have rarely heard in his voice. You are a true American hero. Elena found these personal letters more meaningful than any military decoration or official recognition she had received. They connected her military service to the real-world impact of her actions, demonstrating how individual moments of professional excellence could affect families and communities thousands of miles from the battlefield. Elena's departure from Iraq was marked by ceremonies and recognition that reflected the exceptional nature of her service. The Marine Corps awarded her the Silver Star, the third highest military decoration for valor in combat, making her one of the youngest Marines ever to receive such recognition. The citation accompanying the award used language typically reserved for the most extraordinary acts of heroism, for conspicuous gallantry and intrepidity in action against an armed enemy of the United States while serving as a sniper with Marine Forces, Iraq. Corporal Rodriguez distinguished herself by exceptionally valorous conduct in the face of grave danger during multiple combat operations. Her precision marksmanship, tactical excellence, and unwavering courage under fire directly resulted in the preservation of American lives and the defeat of enemy forces. Corporal Rodriguez's actions reflect the finest traditions of the Marine Corps and the United States military. Elena's homecoming was unlike anything she had anticipated. Media attention had transformed her from a military professional into a national figure whose story resonated with Americans across all demographics. Interview requests came from major television networks, newspapers, and magazines, all seeking to understand the person behind the legendary reputation. Elena approached media attention with the same methodical precision she had applied to combat operations. She understood that her story could inspire other young women to pursue military careers and could help Americans better understand the reality of combat operations in Iraq. However, she was also determined to maintain her privacy and protect the operational security of ongoing military missions. During her first major television interview with correspondent Janet Martinez of NBC News, Elena was asked to explain what it felt like to be called one of the most lethal warriors in American military history. I don't think of myself as lethal, Elena replied thoughtfully. I think of myself as protective. Every shot I took was designed to protect American lives and accomplish missions that would bring us closer to coming home. The enemy gave me no choice but to engage them, and I was trained to do so effectively. When asked about the psychological impact of her 43 confirmed kills, Elena's response reflected the maturity and emotional stability that had made her such an effective combat sniper. Taking a human life is never something to celebrate, regardless of the circumstances, Elena said. But I also understand that the people I engaged were actively trying to kill American service members and Iraqi civilians. My job was to prevent that from happening. I'm proud that I was able to protect the people I served with, and I believe that my actions were morally justified given the circumstances. Elena's transition from combat operations to civilian life presented challenges that many veterans face but few understand until they experience them personally. The intensity and purpose that had defined her daily life in Iraq was replaced by the mundane routine of peacetime military service and the uncertainty of planning for life after the Marine Corps. Elena's first assignment upon returning to the United States was as an instructor at the Marine Corps Scout Sniper School at Quantico, Virginia. Her combat experience and proven expertise made her an ideal candidate for training the next generation of Marine snipers, and Elena approached this new role with the same dedication she had demonstrated in Iraq. Training new snipers presented Elena with unique challenges and opportunities. Her students were aware of her reputation and initially intimidated by the prospect of learning from a legendary combat veteran. Elena had to find ways to share her knowledge and experience while helping students develop confidence in their own abilities. "The most important lesson I can teach you isn't about shooting," Elena told her first class of sniper candidates. "It's about making good decisions under pressure. Technical skills can be learned through practice, but judgment and character can only be developed through experience and reflection. I want you to understand not just how to take a shot, but when to take a shot and when to refrain from shooting." Elena's teaching methods incorporated real-world scenarios based on her combat experience, providing students with tactical problems that reflected the complexity of modern warfare. She emphasized the importance of patience, observation, and teamwork, demonstrating how individual excellence could contribute to unit success. One of Elena's students, Lance Corporal Maria Santos, later described Elena's impact as an instructor and role model. "Having Corporal Rodriguez as an instructor was incredible," Santos said. "She showed us that being a sniper isn't about being the toughest or most aggressive person in the unit. It's about being disciplined, thoughtful, and precise." She proved that women could excel in any military occupation if they were willing to work hard and maintain high standards. Elena's influence as an instructor